For those who hear, let them hear. For those who see, let them see. May the Christ within illumine the world and know that God is one with thee. Melchizedek, Truth Principle. Spiritual words of truth. Unknown tongues. Truly, this is as the wedding feast of Cana, the wedding of the forces, rising from the immortal intellect to spiritual intelligence, spiritual substance. In the 12th chapter of the first book of Corinthians, the first book so called, you will find statements relative to the gift of the Spirit. And as you read those statements, you will find that there shall be those given over to the speaking in unknown tongues. But the Apostle Paul says, "What shall it benefit a man if they remain uninterpreted?" This next statement I make in love, in the fullness of love, and by no means in the least wise in derogatory mention of that which man has engaged in, relative to the speaking of tongues, because of his misinterpretation. What is meant by the speaking of unknown tongues? Are terms of truth recognized to those who do not understand? For you will remember that when the Apostle Paul wrote those statements for the peoples of Corinth, they were steeped in pagan superstition, and the unknown tongues Paul referred to were the tongues of words of truth. As we look back, as it were, upon man of earth, and yea, in this very hour, we find him wandering about on the highways or byways, seeking comfort for mortal distress. It is blessed indeed that you, dear hearts, are joined together in this hour. If these words were to be heard in many other places where man is now seeking release from the self-inflicted mental torment because of his unknowing, he will reject them. And we speak these words, dear heart, without condemnation, for we come in love. Who is to be condemned because he does not understand? Moment by moment, hour by hour, day by day, week by week, month after month, and year after year. As you have learned to reckon time, man gradually seeks truth, and eventually he finds it. Blessed is the supreme idea of the Father, which has established the law of rebirth, while man of earth denies it because of his ignorance of it, does not mean to say it is untrue. Why are you gathered here this evening? Is it not out of curiosity? Is it not out of the idle curiosity? But you, the image and likeness of God, you are beginning to travel back to the Father's house. You are willing to listen to unknown tongues, unknown to the average individual, but not unknown to you. Why? The reason that the involution of the soul cries for the liberty it denied itself, when you are in adherence to, as in theology we used to say, the faith of the fathers. There can be no evolution to the flesh without involution, dear hearts. Now I may digress just a wee bit. Man has been prone to stand before a mirror and say, "Well, I look pretty good today." Or, to the contrary, he may say, "I do not look so good." And that is error. For that which is seen reflected in the mirror is not man. Here, in this room, as you look at the artificial light, you are seeing one of the myriad forms of electricity, but it is not the power. It is one of myriad expressions of that power. As you walk along the road, you will see a tiny flower, a blade of grass, a reed in the marsh, gently moving, touching by the docile breeze. But let that which you have called the wind gain in velocity, and it no longer remains docile, but it becomes what you have learned to call a cyclone, a tornado. It causes the great typhoons and is capable of devastating great areas. Have you seen the power? I dare say not. When man shall see God, he shall see himself, and not until then. And when in spiritual enlightenment he meets himself, he shall have met the Master, or ancient age, the Master, the wise man, the Christ of God, born in the infant body. All birth of flesh is immaculate, dear hearts. It cannot be otherwise, for God is immaculate. That which is conceived in the purity of thought attracts the ancient soul coming back to claim one of its last physical habiliments. Sex, the greatest institution in the creation of the Father and the most sordidly abused. Mary, who bore the physical body tenanted by the Christ of God. Immaculate conception? Yes, dear hearts, and do not reject it. How came it about? But in this wise, through the blending of the aura, and that man needs to learn much about. Why do you feel uncomfortable in the presence of certain individuals? Whether you have so stated or not, I dare say you have heard others make this remark. I felt so uncomfortable when I was in their presence. Then, to the contrary, you meet individuals, as you call them, who, upon first meeting, you can safely say, I love them. I cannot wait until I meet them again. And as your days roll by, in the interim of another meeting, your soul yearns for their nearness. What has happened? Well, to he who has traveled through the many embodiments, the Auric vehicle becomes refined. May I use that word? And when that individual meets one who has not passed through the regeneration of the mortal will, there is a clash, and hence no agreement, a disagreement. But when two souls meet, vibrating on the same rate of spiritual frequency, may I say, well, that is quite different. There is an agreement, there is an accord, there is an understanding. You have come in contact with people and you have said to yourself and to others, no doubt, I know them, but I can't remember where I met them. And from then until now, you are in a state of wonderment, as it were. Yes, you have met them. You know them. But why the seeming lack of recognition? Well, it is in this wise. The recognition is soul recognition, the blending of the auras, the agreement, the accord. The lack of recognition is because you are looking at the physical body with the physical eye. And of course, you have never met that soul in that body. Do not be disturbed. Do not become disquieted because you do not immediately recognize. But in the inner recess of the soul's consciousness, will to know. Man must pass through various devious experiences, and you are going through school again. You have passed through the same school many, many times, but through mortal confusion, you have failed to remember. But dear hearts, as you become less desirous of the baser environments of the physical, is proof sufficient that you are reaching that state of soul growth where the veil shall be rent in twain, and you shall remember all things which have ever been. The Apostle Paul put it in these words: When I was a child, I spake as a child, I thought as a child, but when I became a man, I put aside, or I put away childish things. Now, though I see through a glass darkly, then shall I see face to face. This is a very great step for you, dear hearts. And though you may be enthralled to a degree, and although you may question, which is your birthright, never accept anything until it becomes reasonable to you in consciousness. But whatever is happening in your thought process at this moment, give it room. Not annihilate it. Give it room. For you will remember, when the voice spoke to Mary, she pondered the words in her heart. And as you ponder truth in your heart, you are bringing about the Immaculate Conception, and you are making way for a new experience. This that you are indulging in is not an accident. It has not come about by chance. It is the working out of the immutable law of life. I trust that we have shared with you from the manna of life, and the manna shall no longer be hidden, but it shall be before you, ever in readiness for a feast, every moment of every hour of every day. Remember, dear hearts, whatever you enter into to do, let this be your statement of truth. This I do unto the Father. Your hands, as you stretch them forth, are symbols of giving, and as you close them and bring them close to your body, they are symbols of receiving. They carry either a benediction of love or that which is contrary. Dedicate your body to the Father. Have no fear, dear hearts. Learn to say, "Use me, Father, for the purpose of which I am a part of your eternal creation." God is love. His heaven is your heaven. It is within you. You have never been separated from God. You cannot be separated from God, only as you so will to do in your disregard of the presence of God in your thinking. Truly, this hour is as the wedding of Cana, for the bride and groom have met. Intellect rises, and intelligence and supreme substance. Infinite being is the priest and witness to this marriage. We bless it. We bless it. We bless it. Go forth in peace. All of the Father's is yours, and all that which you are and ever shall be is of the Father. Our blessing rests upon those who are out along the highways and byways of life, are misusing their bodies. Listen, dear hearts. You may become ambassadors of the Father. You may carry the message of truth to those who are less fortunate than yourself. Do not scatter it in a promiscuous manner. But when the knock comes upon the door of your heart, when the inquisitor stands at your door, open it. For remember, the door to your heart opens on the inside. Open it. Remember, regardless of how man desecrated himself in the abuse of his talents, he is your brother. You are the light of the world. Your eyes have become singled unto the light. Therefore, dear hearts, the light is great. And how dark can the dwelling place of mortal man remain when the light of God is shed within it? Let your light shine. Now, one last word. You remember the Nazarene left these words, and I. Listen, dear hearts, mind this well. And I, if I be lifted up, I shall draw all mankind unto me. You are the I am, the Christ of God, incarnate in the flesh. It was the Christ power, the Christ consciousness, which spoke through the physical vehicle of He who was known as Jesus of Nazareth. The Christ of God speaks through you, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of the condition which you meet, regardless of the individual you meet. Learn to say this: I behold you a child of God. The Christ in me greets the Christ in you. This is truth, dear hearts. God is no respecter of persons. You are His child. Your hands express, let them express love. We are grateful to you for your attention. We shall be with you again. Bless you, bless you, bless you 1,000 times 10,000. So mote it be.